What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. Today being Tuesday, we got the Tinkering Tuesday episode for you guys. It's a little bit longer than normal because I bring Scott, one of the owners of Dialed Archery, on to discuss this beautiful work of art, the proof, the Dialed Archery proof. This thing is fantastic. My first impressions, I'll do a video on that for you guys to see later, but I wanted to get Scott on here to discuss it more in depth for you guys, since it did launch on the 1st of October, to get you guys the information as soon as possible. This thing is awesome. I love that they take the feedback from the Arxos and made it even better into the proof site. The proof is in the pudding, proof that they listen. So many reasons why this has been named proof. Definitely check it out, guys. The link to be able to win a Dialed Arxos site will also be down below, with the first Phorm Outdoors sweepstakes that we have going right now, the ultimate bow package giveaway. Go check it out. Over $4,500 worth of gear and a full bow setup with arrows, a target, and more. Go check it out. The link is down below for you to be able to get in on that. I'll also leave the link for the Dialed Proof site down below. You definitely want to check this out, guys. I mean, just some of the key features that right off the bat for me are less than 10 ounces. That's amazing. This thing has all the different adjustments. So I've got the pick rail because I run a Hoyt bow, but it's got first, second, oh, where's it at? Yeah, there it is. The second and third axis adjustments listed there. Right now, these are the vertical pins, so the 3-stack, like I've been running, but there will be a 3 and a 5 version coming out for the horizontal pins. And this thing has an amazing wheel. It's got a shift lock lever right there, so you can lock it down all the way or leave it open, or somewhere in between to mess with the tension. So there's so many things that we're going to go into this proof site in this episode. Stay tuned for it. I hope you enjoy this and have a fantastic day as you go through your day listening to this episode. Let's get into this conversation here with Scott Bakken and Dialed Arxos and Proof from Dialed Archery podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and now that we are 30 minutes into a conversation here with Scott, I decided to finally click the record button. So today we've got Scott Bakken, one of the owners of Dialed Archery. As you guys know, recently they just launched the Proof site, which has been many years in the making, and has been some awesome improvements off of the Arxos, which the Arxos, as you guys know, I've been running that for a couple of years, have absolutely loved that site. But they took feedback. They had obviously their own feedback that they want to do on the site and have improved it even more to create the Proof. And so you guys are going to be interested in knowing about the horizontal pins that are coming with the Proof. There's vertical pins right now that you can go and order, and so many different attachment options. And now we're going to get into all the new features. So with that being said, we've got Scott here, and Scott does more than just Dialed. He also is part of the Pope and Young Club. You said you're the second vice president of the Pope and Young Club. Mm-hmm. And he's got his hands in a lot of other stuff, and he likes to archery hunt when he does have an opportunity, and he's not worried about falling asleep in the stand because he finally gets to sit down for once and get some sleep, So with that, Scott, who are you, man? For people that don't know who you are.
Nobody.
Yeah.
just a long-haired, homeless looking dude that likes.
That's what I always tell people when they go to the booth or they're looking. I'm like, he's the handsome homeless guy, and they're like, what? I'm like, just trust me. When you walk up, you'll know what I'm talking about. Flip flops, tats, long hair, but he's a good looking dude.
It's no wonder why nobody stops by, because they're like, yeah, like I saw a homeless looking dude, but none of them were handsome looking.
He's just making sure. He's just making sure that no one steals things. That's what the homeless guy is.
Our diversity hire.
Yeah, exactly. But what just kind of a brief synopsis. I know you've been on the podcast before. People can go back and listen to that episode as well. But Scott, you love archery. You obviously had a history in the archery community. You've worked in the industry for a while. So just kind of a brief, why did you decide to start dialed and piss off your parents and and all the stuff by starting a company instead of going on and using a college career or something like that.
I'd just say I've been a disappointment to my parents. I mean, that's nothing new there. But I mean, kind of like, I mean, you pretty much summed up like who I am, and I've literally spent the majority of my life somehow plugged into the archery industry from a very young age. I've told the story millions of times, but I didn't come from a hunting family. My dad wasn't a hunter. My mom's side of the family, like they did some small game, like pheasant hunting and stuff, but when it came to big game hunting, I kind of I got bit by the bug like at a very young age, but it was archery that was the attraction, not even really hunting. But and like I said, told the story I don't know how many times, but I'll never forget, it was the very first Robin Hood movie that Disney produced. And I'd have to look up the actors again. No, not the not the animated one. It was actual but that's a good version though too.
Yeah.
But no, it was actual like real actors.
Yeah. No, I remember
and but it was black and white. And I'll never forget, there was an opening scene of the movie where this guy who became Robin Hood was trying to shoot this tiny little twig with a bow, and just watching this dude just basically just murder bad guys with a bow and arrow. I was like, man, that's badass. So I remember going and we lived out in the country, and my parents had these beautiful maple trees in their yard, and I was going and cutting these trees down because I wanted to make bows out of them. So back to the whole pissing off your parents thing, that started very young. But so I got bit with the archery bug at a very young age. And then I was very fortunate. I had an uncle that was a big bow hunter. And he's the one that kind of like took not only myself, but like my dad, and, introduced us into archery. And so we got set up with like our own bows. Like I think I was like 6 or 7 when I got my first bow, which at that point, there really wasn't a lot of youth bows available, and I was left eye dominant. So try to find a left-handed youth bow back in the mid to late 80s. But and then from there it was literally, I mean, it was just the snowball effect. The older I got, the more involved I got, and then hunting, that was like when people would ask me when I was a kid, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I was like, I want to be a big game hunter. Like, I want to be a hunter. But it was always, like, I don't want to say it was like who I was, but it definitely like shaped me as a person, like growing up. And, looking back, like, I was a troublemaker and got in a lot of trouble, but it was the outdoors, I think, that really, it was archery and the outdoors that really kept me from becoming a bad like kid. I was just a little mischievous boy, right? But there was times where I did stuff I definitely shouldn't have and got into stuff I shouldn't have. But like I said, if it wasn't for, like we were talking about northern Wisconsin, like if it wasn't for being able to go up north and spend time in the woods, and it's actually, there's some days where I'm like, man, who knows where, I would have ended up. But then eventually just took that passion and made a career out of it, and, started working in a local archery shop. Like before I was even, like in Wisconsin, the legal working age was like 14 before you could get a worker's permit. And I wasn't even old enough to get a worker's permit, and they would stuff me in this back room away from everybody, and started fletching arrows. And so, a young kid, in confined spaces, huffing fumes, like that's a dream come true, right? Like also explains probably a lot, looking back. But so then it just, ever since from there, it just, and again, it wasn't even just about like, I think looking back, like it was like, I just wanted to hunt. Like I loved hunting, but I think, archery taught me more back then than I probably like realized, just about, life and, being disciplined and, whatever. So, eventually it just, as my career advanced, the one thing I hadn't checked off yet that I've always wanted to do, and mainly because like my dad owns his own business, my uncle owned his own archery company. So like I wanted to follow in their footsteps. And I've always been one where I like a challenge. Like I don't like I get bored really easy. So, it was just, I was kind of at a point where, I had a great job with a great company, but there was just more. Like it was just like there was something that was missing. And, in the end, at the end of the day, like there just really wasn't an end game, where I was at. And so, yeah, I was just ready for a new challenge. And like I said, being a business owner was the one thing that was still on my to-do list that I hadn't accomplished yet. And, there'd been some opportunities throughout, like, as I became an adult to, possibly purchase, a company and stuff like that. And that's what kind of going through that process, that's when I was like, this is pretty cool. And then, looking back, like you hear people always talk about like, the successes of a business and, why was a business successful and yada, yada, yada. And, really, I 100% believe that it's all about timing, right? Like, timing, meeting the right people. So like meeting, my current business partners, Jordan and Taylor, and, developing our friendship, which led to a business partnership. And now it's me, Jordan and Taylor, are the co-founders of Dialed. And, but then, the right timing within the industry and, yada, but it all comes down to timing. So it's just kind of like after, I'm not going to say how many years because that would give away my age, which I officially realize I'm getting old. But it was just the right time, and, not to discredit anything prior to that, it's just the timing was right. If there was ever a time in my life for me to take a risk and really just gamble on myself and just put it all in the, in the middle, center of the table, that was the time to do it. And luckily, Jordan and Taylor were on the same page, and for some reason we all decided to make our lives really, really difficult and be really, really poor. So, that's what led up to Dialed. And, like you said, we're going into our 4th year, which is crazy to think about. Like it's been that long already, but, we finally got to where we've always wanted to be with the launch of the Proof, which is literally, the next phase of Dialed. Like, like we were talking in the beginning, it's, I never realized like how tired I was until last week, and just how much of a grind it's been. And it's, we're not unique. It's nothing that anybody hasn't been through before when it comes to starting a new business. And, whether it's acquiring a current business or starting one from scratch, like there is a difference there. But it's the same grind and it's the same sacrifices, right? But all that work, whether we realize it or not, like Tuesday, which was, last week, October 1st, all of that led up to that point. So it's like, that was when we were like, we're finally doing what we set out to do. Not that, we weren't, it's hard to explain, but, or I should say I'm probably not the best to explain it, but well, perfect example. We both listen to Andy Frisella, right? And he's always talking about building up your karma bank, right? Well, we didn't realize that, well, whether we realized it or not at the time, every ounce of energy that we were putting into Dialed, we were building up that bank, right? And you don't really know you're doing it at the time, but then knowing that, we started with the Arxos, which we, I still love the Arxos. It's our baby. It's what Dialed was founded on. But, we quickly realized that, we may have missed the mark on a few areas, or areas that we didn't consider, were either a necessity or whatever. But, that's the one thing. And I think the Proof, that's why we named it the Proof, is because it's proof that we listened and we paid attention to people's feedback and stuff. So, again, it's just investing in this bank and then just waiting for the right time to cash in. And that's the Proof, so the Proof is literally 4 years, or almost 4 years of just, grinding, listening, getting feedback, both, from industry professionals like yourself to the end consumer. And it's like, we finally have the product that we like set out to build. And, but you just, like I said, whether you realize or not, like you have to go through all that in order to get to that point. It's just, man, it's like I said, like, even after like this weekend, like it was just kind of a chill weekend. Like I feel so exhausted still. Like I feel like I haven't woke up yet. And, but it's all worth it. Like when you finally, like we have the product that we set out to build, and it's like all those hardships, it's like, it was so like, it's so worth it now, you know, like our excitement level is like, we're always a pretty like, you know, optimistic crew, but you can only put on a front for so long before people start being like, man, like you look tired, or like, man, you look worn out, or whatever. Like, no, I'm good. But now, like I said, it's like, I mean, the energy at Dialed right now is just next level, because of like, we are so ready for this next chapter. And like, I don't know, it's just very exciting. And now it's like, we're coming out like swinging. So there's just a lot of confidence and a lot of energy right 100%. Now.
And so I just want to clear up some things too, because you mentioned, you know, you guys you came out with your first site, but you also found some things that maybe, I wouldn't even say missed the mark, but could improve on, right? And you know, and when people go in and spend $500 on a site, because it's, you know, it's US made, and there's a lot of other things that go into it, they want it to be perfect, and they're used to other companies out there that have been out there for decades, and they've had all of those years to go into building their, you know, their machining and everything else that they've got going on in their processes. And they have a huge crew of people that are working on that. And so I personally have had, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this before on the podcast, but, you know, you and I have talked, and I have people ask me, why don't I work with a different site company or use a different site when, you know, obviously Dialed, you've got your new company and you have things that you even mentioned where you were looking to improve on. And I just mentioned the fact that I know where you guys are going, and I love that. And I love a lot about the Arxos, 100%. And I mean, I've killed my 2 bulls with it, you know, and I've had an amazing time with it and learned along the way. But the biggest thing for me is seeing this new introduction into the archery space, which I'm fairly green myself, and I still consider myself pretty green when it comes to archery. But having access to a shop, Wild Arrow, that has pretty much all of the industry standard sites, and I still bring in my Dialed site to them, and they've even asked me, you know, why not this one or why not that one? And I just say, you know, I know it doesn't have a couple of these other features, but where they're going with this is what I believe in. U.S. manufacturing, the team that's over there, and where you guys are going. There's a lot more that goes into it, of the intangibles, rather than just the new flashy thing.
And that's,
well, I was just going to say, and on top of that, I mean, it's the best looking site out there. I'll just put that out there. But you know,
I mean, that's really what we were going for. We really didn't like strive to make it functional. We just wanted to make it look the best. So, but, no, I mean,
it's all for the kill pictures, right?
We really don't care about the functionality. We just want it to look good. But no, and I mean, you said like a lot there. I mean, like at the end of the day, I mean, it's like, to be a consumer in like the archery industry right now, like it's never been better as far as like your choice of products, right? Like there's a lot of really good products out there in any category. Like it doesn't matter, right? And particularly like in the site category, I mean, there's like people always ask us like, you know, if we didn't have Dialed, what site would you use? And I'm like, man, that would be, I mean, take your pick, because they're all good, right? But that was the challenge for us, is like, we just didn't, you know, when we started Dialed, we didn't want to be another site company. Like we wanted to do new things. We wanted to try new things. And I mean, the Arxos is a very unique site. Like there's features on that site that, to my knowledge of being in the industry for over 30 years, has never been done before. So, you know, that's you're literally trying to navigate uncharted waters, right? So, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you've been in business 1 year or 40 years, your products are never going to be perfect, right? Because you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of archery, is that there's no like rules as far as what you can and can't like or you know, it's such like a personal, customizable like sport. You know, like I always compare archery with like golf. Like I love golf, right? Because there's so much commonality between the two. Like you see some, like if you ever watch, you know, golf on TV, like majority of the players have the very traditional, you know, their swings are very similar, right? But then you have that one dude that has the most funky, messed up swing, but yet he's still competing, right? So it's archery is the same way. Like we all have our own form, like our own technique or whatever, but it's no different when it comes to products, right? Like we all have our own personal, and like me, like I'm a consumer, right? I'm very picky about the stuff I buy. So, you know, again, like you're never gonna please everybody, but we really just wanted to do something different, and we knew it wasn't gonna appeal to everybody, but we didn't care. Like we just wanted to try something different and see how people would react. And the initial response, like I'll never forget, like the day we launched Dialed Archery back in November of, I guess I was 21. Yeah, 21. I mean, just to see people's feedback on like finally something different. Like nobody knew anything about us. Like we didn't even have like a real site yet. Like it was still in the conception phase, but everybody was like, finally something different. And that's when we were like, okay, we have to move forward with this. But again, being so new and so different, we had a lot that we had to try to figure out on the fly. So it literally, like the Arxos and Dialed at that point, like we were the epitome of you don't know what you don't know, right? And the only way to gain knowledge is to go through it. So yeah, like, you know, we quickly realized that, you know, like the first couple hundred sites that we shipped were like, oh shit, like we missed this, like we got to redo this. Like it was, I mean, it was chaos. Like, I mean, it was not, the future did not look very bright for us in the very beginning, because we had created this excitement that we couldn't even come close to fulfilling the demand for. And I would say, like, I think about it quite a bit, like looking back, if I could do things over again, you know, there's not a lot that I would do differently, but I think that whole launch phase, I think we learned we would have done that a little differently. But in the end, you know, we lived to die another day, and going through all that led us to what is now the proof. And again, it's proof that we listen to everybody's feedback. Like, you know, the people that bought the Arxos, like some people absolutely love it. Some people are like, yeah, it's not for me. And that's cool. Like, I mean, you will never hear us say anything other than like, yeah, no hard feelings. Like we get it, you know, appreciate you giving us a chance. Like, thank you for the, you know, the criticism. We'll take that in consideration. And we did. So, you know, it's, you're as hard as like some people were like with their criticism, we're our own worst critics. Like, and I mean that like wholeheartedly. Like we are probably the hardest on ourselves out of anybody. And, you know, we always ran with the mantra that like, if we wouldn't use it, we wouldn't build it. And that's very true. And, you know, the longer we all use the Arxos, I mean, we all realized there was stuff that we didn't like about it, you know, but that's just part of, you know, developing a new brand, developing a new product that is truly unique. You know, we could have taken the easy route and just followed what everybody else was doing, right? We could have paid royalties to use other people's tech. We could have done it. We could have made life way easier for us, but that's just not who we are, right? Like, and, you know, to your point, and I mean, whether we probably don't do the best at like promoting it, but, you know, like hearing what you said, because like you do have the option of using whatever products you want, right? And I'm sure there's companies that would pay you a lot of money to do so, you know, but so that was one thing, you know, we realized, but we were very adamant about too, is like the people that we associate with and the people that we want using our products, you literally have the choice, you know, take your pick, but if you are on Team Dialed, like you are on Team Dialed. Like we don't take that lightly. Like that means a lot to us, and it means like we're gonna just keep busting our asses for you guys, right?
Yeah.
Because you know, that in a world where, again, like there's just so many options, it's like everybody's so quick to try different things, and that's great. I mean, that's the beauty of like the times we live in. Like we always say, like capitalism is a great thing. Like, you know, it promotes innovation. And in the end consumers are the ones that win because they get better quality products, they get new innovative products, you know. But you know, we just always like wanted to do things the Dialed way. And even when it came to building our team, you know, we're not like everybody else, you know. Like if you've met me, if you've met Taylor, if you've met Jordan, if you've met our team, like it's a hodgepodge of weird people, you know, like, but collectively, I've said this many times before too. It's literally, it is the best team I've ever been a part of. And I hope, you know, yourself, other people that have bought products from us feel that same way. And I think that's one thing, you can't replicate the passion. And if that's one word that would describe us as a group, we're very passionate. And it's not just about, we're not just passionate about Dialed or the Arxos or the Proof. Like we're just passionate about archery, and particularly like the archery industry. And, you know, like you mentioned, you know, being a part of Pope and Young, like just doing, if you have the means of doing good things, like it's your responsibility to do that. So that's kind of the angle we've always taken. And that's been a huge driving force to us too, is, you know, the bigger we get, the more good things we can do. So like when we're at a TAC event and whatever, you know, going back to like the price tag of products, like, yes, like we are very well aware our stuff is not cheap. And trust me, if we could charge a lesser price, we definitely would. But American manufacturing just is not cheap anymore, right? Machine time is very expensive. Materials are expensive. And, you know, just labor. I mean, I look at what we spend in payroll every 2 weeks and it's like, holy crap. Like, you know, I was just talking about that with a buddy of mine, you know, back when like I was working in that archery shop, you know, making $4 an hour or whatever minimum wage was back then. And now, like, you know, starting assembly, you know, what we pay, it's like, holy crap, like times have changed, right? But the one thing we try to, and I hope people, or like this resonates with people, is like when you buy a product from us, like you're not just buying a product from us. Like that price tag comes with not only a, you know, a lifetime warranty. So if anything happens, we're going to stand behind the product, but you're also like getting our support in the end. So like if anything happens, we're going to do everything we can to take care of you, right? If you're not happy with the product, we'll take care of you. Like if you'd like to provide us feedback, we'd love to hear it, right? So it's, you're getting more than just a tangible item, right? And, you know, you can't always expose that, you know, perceived added value, but it's there. So like I said, like anybody that purchases a product or even shows interest in our product, like we don't take that lightly. Like it means the world to us, because that's, you know, outside of putting out good quality products, is we just wanted to build like a good community of people. So, you know,
no, I couldn't.
That's my rant. That's
more.
my rant for the morning.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And I only bring that up because, again, you know, I'm very blessed to, you know, I've been doing this for a little over 3 years now, and having the relationships that I do. And the first Dialed site that I bought, and even at this point, like what you mentioned, you know, it's not a paid partnership or even a paper partnership between us. It's a handshake, verbal deal that we just, you know, I love the team. I want to be a part of the team and the company. And again, I see where you guys are going and what you're doing, and I just want to be a part of that. That's as simple as what it is. And some people may not, you know, I've noticed that a lot nowadays, that everything's got to be on paper. Everything's got to, like, the word hardly means anything anymore, which is unfortunate. But, you know, just working with different companies, you kind of get a feel for that pretty quickly. And again, you guys have an amazing team over there. And like you said, it's not just buying a site or buying a product. it's, you're supporting U.S. manufacturing, you're supporting people that are, feeding their families as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also able to give that feedback. Like what you were saying, some people have purchased it and just, they don't run it anymore because they didn't like X, Y, Z about it. And they provide you that feedback.
Right.
But also I'd say something too, that kept you guys afloat for so long was the willingness to admit your mistakes. And that there's not a lot of companies out there that will do that. They'll either ghost you or they'll fire back at you. They'll get pissy with you, whatever. And the fact that you yourself, as one of the owners of the company, you weren't sitting back twiddling your thumbs and saying, what's this guy know? He gave us his money. We'll just leave it at that. You would answer phone calls. You hop on video messages, at the start of Dialed and make sure people were set up properly and how their bows. You'd go all the way down the rabbit hole of their bow setup, not just the archery, not just the Dialed Archery setup.
I mean, I've literally have driven 4 hours one way just to help a guy set up his sight because he was struggling to get an accurate sight tape. And I mean, granted, I always tell people, like, my dream is someday, like, we just get so big that we can have our own private plane and I can just fly all over the country.
Dialed mobile.
Yeah, and just help people set their stuff up. But no, and like I said,
sorry, I just had a picture flash into my head of you in like an ice cream truck.
Yeah.
Driving around with an archery shop in the back of your ice cream truck.
Yeah, archery shop with my bedroom. Yeah.
The handsome homeless guy.
Dude, you laugh. We've talked about having a little mobile.
Yeah, have your little canvas cutter rolled out in the back there, so you just sleep in it while you're driving.
We've literally have talked about that.
Constant IV drip of Phorm energy drinks.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. All of a sudden it's like 10 years later, and you don't But oh man. No, I mean, and it means a lot, like, hearing you say that and stuff, because again. And we still are like the underdogs. We're a small team still trying to build a brand, and we're making the right steps and we're growing and whatever. But I mean, we still have a lot of work to do left, right? But that was just one thing from day one. Is we there were several times we were probably a little too transparent as far as like what we were dealing with and whatever, but at the same time, we're like, we have nothing to hide, and we owe it to the people that are spending their hard-earned money and gambling and taking a risk, on us to like keep them in the loop and stuff. So yeah, I mean, we've always been very upfront with like, our shortfalls and, whatever. And, we've never, like, there's never been a single customer that like gave us negative feedback, which is in a way you can look at it as positive feedback because that's just more info that you're gathering. But like the people that didn't like our stuff, we never got like butthurt about it because like, fair enough, man. Like we tried, you tried, we appreciate the opportunity. It didn't work out. Cool. We'll hit you on the next one. Right. Like, cause we're only going to get better, and that's, I think another, knowing Dialed and the team behind Dialed, like, we don't quit, so it's like when times get tough, that's when we excel because we just don't quit. So we're always going to strive to be the best we can and to deliver the best customer service. So that's like number one priority for us, because again, going back to the products, we all have our own products. There are a lot of really good products, but the one thing we will strive, and like, I would dare anybody try to beat us, is our customer service. And like, so that's number one. But then two, like you said, and like I said, just continuing to listen and learn. Like, no matter that, I think that's the cool thing about archery or just hunting in general, is it doesn't matter if you've been doing it 3 years or if you've been doing it 4 years, you're never done learning. Right. And so I think our willingness to listen, our willingness to continue to learn is like what's going to continue to, move us forward and just continue to innovate and come up with, new ideas and stuff. So, but ultimately, I mean, we just want to provide the best experience we can. And like I said, build a positive and, cool community of hunters. So,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I agree. And it's cool that, again, you guys take that feedback. Again, there's a lot of companies that I understand it takes more, just with the ship analogy, it takes more to correct or to turn a ship that's huge. And even though it may seem like it's not moving very fast, it's big and it takes a lot to turn that. You guys are in a unique position that you're able to make those changes a little bit quicker, or a lot quicker than some of the bigger companies out there. And you take that feedback and implement it. You don't just take it personally or offensively, but you're able to go through and make that happen. And that there's a lot to be said about that. But I do want to get into the proof site. Now, do you happen to have one with you?
Yeah, actually, let me, I got to grab my charger from my computer anyways. I'll grab one.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Please hold.
I'll fill the blank here. But yeah, I'm got one on the way, so I'm going to be able to give you guys a review on that pretty soon here. I'm going to take it up to my whitetail hunt in Wisconsin, use it on the mule deer here in November, and then I've got another whitetail hunt out in my original home state of North Carolina that I'll be able to use it on. But there's a lot of awesome features from jumping from the Arxos to the Proof. One, you don't have to purchase a whole new, I guess it's called the rail, or the actual body of the sight. If you swap bows, which some people like to swap bows every year, and maybe one year this bow has a pick rail, the next year it's got a standard sight on the side, and then the next year maybe you're shooting a Matthews and you've got the bridge lock. You're able to swap those pieces out rather than having to buy a whole new body for your sight. You can just buy that individual piece and slap it onto your sight to begin with. So just kind of starting from there and then even if you want to be the weird person that likes to mix and match colors, you can have a different colored mag, a different colored body, a different colored dial, and then a different colored attachment to your bow if you really want to go crazy with it. So that's something that you're able to do. So
it's like a box of Fruit Loops.
Yeah, exactly. That's what my site right now is. It's a mixed bag. It's got the gold or the bronze that was matching like the Cryptek, and it's got a red dial, and then it's got a gray mag on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what my site is literally a Frankenstein site because I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
We're always short on left-handed components. So I literally just have to grab whatever left-handed components we have. So it literally looks like a box of spray paint exploded or something. But and
I always tell people it's like the Spartan colors for mine.
Yeah.
It's like it's got the bronze, red, and gray. We're good.
Yeah. But so you hit a good point, going back to you don't know what you don't know, and gathering customer feedback is we were not under the impression that a lot of people did switch bow brands. And growing up in Wisconsin, Dial being based in Minnesota, we're obviously in Matthews country, right? So I remember growing up, it was like a sin if you didn't shoot Matthews, right? With them being in our backyard. But so we were always under the impression that, if you're a Matthews shooter, you stayed a Matthews shooter. If you're a Hoyt shooter, you stayed a Hoyt shooter. And same with all the other brands, PSC or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I think we've reached a point in time where, there's just so many good bows out there, right? There literally is not a bad bow anymore, and the amount of people that do switch from brand to brand because they want to try a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a miss we had on the Arxos. We just, made an assumption, and what happens when you do that, right? So that is a big, a new change for the Proof is being able to swap out the frame attachment. So if you want to bounce between a bridge lock, Picatinny, and then we have what we call our universal riser mount dovetail, which is a standard dovetail you can mount to the, outside of a riser.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just, overall the Proof, I guess, do you want to dive into the Proof right now?
Yeah. So I will just say there, I'm gonna turn that around and make it even a little bit more positive, though, that you guys had a standard. I mean, the dovetail was the initial one that you came out with. It was built for the Matthews sight, or the Matthews bow. But then you also had the mount to go on the outside of
Yep.
the side of any other bow. Then you came out with the pick. And honestly, at the time, those were the two main. I guess the Matthews and the pick were the main integrated versions. And then that standard would fit on any other bow. So if you were one that was going to swap bow to bow to bow, just go with the standard. And if you happen to end up with a Matthews, you put it through the bridge lock through the middle, and it fit perfectly. So I would just say it's not even that you guys missed that, but it's more of a you made that slight improvement because it adds to the customizability of someone's setup. So again, if they're moving from all of those different bows, if you swap bow to bow to bow, you don't have to either use the standard outside mount. I think most bows now have some sort of integrated. Most of them are either on the pick or you've got the Matthews, right? And that's kind of where everyone's moving to, is the pick mount on the front, which I think Prime has that now.
I think I think just about everybody does, other than Matthews and Bowtech. Or
I think Elite is coming out with it, or they've got it, or they've teased it. Yeah, so Elite's got it, Prime's got it, Hoyt's got it. I think Bowtech has their own kind of like I think they're the only ones that did their own thing away from the pick, which that's Bowtech. So they're a good bow, but you can use the standard universal mount. And again, you don't have to go through and buy a whole new body if you go from a Hoyt to a Prime to an Elite, and then you want a Bowtech. You just buy that little piece and swap it out. So let's dive into the proof. Let's see what we got starting right from the back.
Yeah, so I mean, going through that, and one last thing. I mean, it's you have to start someplace, right? Otherwise, I mean, we literally got to the point where with the Arxos, like, we were making so many changes because of like feedback, to where we literally got to the point where it's like, we just have to get this thing out into the marketplace, because we were making so many changes that we were actually losing track of what we were changing, and we were starting to go backwards. So anyways, so with the proof, everything with the proof is built off of like the Arxos, right? So the overall look of it, you can see the angled rail, the void dial, same mag housing. So a lot of like the same like functionality as the Arxos. But one of the big difference is we removed even more components from the Arxos, which was already minimalistic, but now the proof is even less components, so it's even more simplified. And the overall, so the proof is coming in under 10 ounces total weight, so which to my knowledge is one of the lightest adjustable sights on the market that's non-carbon. So everything is still machined aluminum.
Do you happen to know if what was the Arxos weighing?
So the Arxos, if you did the dovetail with the riser mount, was about 12 and a half ounces.
Okay.
So we shaved, 3 to 4 ounces off from. So
it wasn't. I'll just say it, Spot Hog heavy, because Spot Hog's known to be the tank of a pound worth of a sight on the front. But
they all were, but it was just because everybody was trying to build them like brick shit houses, right? Everybody was trying to build a durable sight, but majority of the sites on the market are just so full of like components. I mean, just part after part after part, hardware after hardware after hardware, which all adds weight, right? So that was a big area we really wanted to focus on, was trying to pull more components out, really decrease the weight. So like I said, now the proof is coming in under 10 ounces, which is crazy. But I would say, like, from a feature standpoint, the two biggest changes we made to the proof was, one, on the Arxos was a tension controlled sight. So overall we tuned him to be really stiff because we didn't use any sort of locking mechanism. We had the dial brake, but the Arxos was supposed to be a really stiff sight, which some people like, some people didn't like, right? And not having the ability to lock the dial down, some people came around to the idea, but there's also people that just said, no, if you can't lock it, I don't want it, right? And we always felt like locks were just kind of unnecessary. But again, showing that we listened, now you have what we call the shift lever, which is this little lever right here. So you can adjust the tension of the dial by adjusting the lever. So where this lever, sits, that's going to control the tension of the sight. So if you have it all the way disengage, it'll just move freely, but it won't move at the shot. So similar to what the Arxos did, but if you rotate the lever, I don't know if you can see this that well. If you rotate that lever a full 90 degrees, it'll actually lock the dial in position now. So you get the best of both worlds. You can still control the tension if you don't want to use the locking mechanism, or you can rotate the lever 90 degrees and it'll lock in position.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the most noticeable difference outside of just the overall design. We made a huge update to the front of the sight on the windage. So now that's one piece rather than multiple components. So on the Arxos, we had both micro and macro windage. Now we only have micro adjustment. So it's a shorter bar, but then it's also, like I said, one piece. But you still get your third axis adjustment, which is a little bit easier to access than on the Arxos. And then we have the tension knob on the front. So this will lock the micro windage, but you can also adjust the tension of how you want the micro, if you want it more stiff, if you want it more loose. And then we have the actual locking micro windage set screw, and we labeled everything on here. So that was the other thing we learned with the Arxos is, as minimalistic as it was, a lot of people still didn't understand where their adjustments were, where the locking screws. So like we always said, any screw that's exposed, that's meant for you to touch and mess with. But I think a lot of people were still hesitant. Like, I know these are exposed, but am I really supposed to touch them? So we went through and labeled everything, which is, minimal, but it still makes a difference. But then with the proof, now you get a true first, second, and third axis adjustments. So you get all the adjustments that, you wanted, where the Arxos had all those adjustments, but they weren't designated like, first, second, third axis only. So like the two tension screws on the inside of the frame are Arxos, those would do first axis and tension, where now we have a true independent first axis, we have a true independent second axis, and we have a true independent third axis. So you can adjust all three of them independently without messing with anything else. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, the housing's pretty much the same. We're going to have the 3 and 2 pin vertical, and then we also have a 3 and 5 pin horizontal pin where each pin is individually adjustable. That was one thing everybody was screaming at us for. So we finally have that available. But yeah, just the overall, just a simpler design. The site, one thing people will realize, and that's new, is the site will ship with 2 switch tape rings on it. So with the Arxos, you could pick whether you wanted to run with an inside tape orientation or an outside tape orientation. But if you ran the outside tape, you lost the use of your multi-indicator needles, which on the proof, we got rid of each individual pins, and now we're using indicator rings. So they're a lot easier to adjust. You can stack them on top of each other. So you could run 3 indicator needles on the inside and 3 on the outside. So you could run up to 6 needles at one point, but then you can actually run an inside tape or an outside tape, or you could run them both at the same time. So the idea behind that is you could put your setup tape on the outside and run your yardage tape on the inside, but then you always have that outside setup tape to reference if you needed. Or if you wanted to run 2 different arrow setups and not have to swap the rings out, just always have them installed on your site, you can do that as well. So just more options. But then all the switch tape rings are interchangeable. So yeah, just a lot of updated, components. And then, like I said, the addition of a few new features. But the big one I think a lot of people are going to really like is that shift lever. And then, just the overall, I mean, the site is just so smooth. Like, it's just, I mean, it's like, oh man. Yeah. And they only, and they feel better once you get them installed on a bow too. So
yeah.
but having that shift lever is going to be huge.
So. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So first, second, third, independent axis adjustments, micro windage that you can tension down or let out the tension.
Yep.
With the third axis adjustment, it's still a macro. It's not a, like, there's not a, like,
so
a
you
clicky
can,
knob.
nope. So that's the third axis screw right there. So just so you loosen that, and then it'll pivot on this point right here. So you get 4 degrees of third axis adjustment. Cool. But on the Arxos, you had the 2 screws that pushed back and forth on each other. And the design behind that was, it was on the micro windage arm. So once you got it adjusted, you would crank the micro windage in that would bury the third axis. So then it couldn't get bumped or anything. We loved it. Some people liked it. Some people didn't. Really where it kind of had a disadvantage is if you were swapping out heads, having to crank the micro windage out all the way, and then having that, like we were talking about in the beginning, that one pivot screw. Yep. Where now it's literally on its own pivot with 1 screw. So, and it's always accessible, but we beefed up that screw too. So once you tighten it down, it can't come loose.
Nice. But awesome.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, again, just a minimalistic design, but it still has all the features that you could really want.
So. Yeah, and then with the different attachments to the bow is the windage, because now you don't have the macro option with a longer bar, which I noticed on some of my bows, that bar would almost get in the way of me rolling sometimes, like of my index finger knuckle as I'm rolling.
Yeah, if it was pushed.
Yeah, if it was pushed pretty far out.
Yeah, like if you're running a bridge lock or a Picatinny mount, because you're moving a sight from the outside of the riser to the center, that difference, like you don't get that for free. That's got to come from someplace, right? So it meant you had to tuck your sight further into the riser, and then which meant you had all the windage sticking out the other side for your fingers would hit it. If you're trying to put it in a case, like it was just more to get hung up on. So that we chopped that, made that adjustment, because you didn't need all that adjustment. So yeah, we made an update to that. So the overall is just a more petite design.
Yeah. And then so with that, it's built into that forgiveness, or that give and take that you get from Picatinny and Matthews versus the standard on the outside is built into the mount option now.
Yeah. And actually, right. And now because we shortened that windage on the actual riser mounting dovetail. So we have the bridge lock dovetail, which is meant for the Matthews bridge lock. We have the Picatinny, and then the riser mounting dovetail option. It's you mount it to the side of the riser, but then it actually angles in. So then it'll still run in line. So it's a still in line option, but it's mounted to the riser. So if you were shooting, if you're shooting like an older Matthews, or if you're running, a Hoyt or a PSC that had a Picatinny mount, but you don't want to run the Picatinny mount, you actually want the dovetail adjustment, you can still use the dovetail, but you get the inline mounting, look and feel. So yeah, just, again, something new, something different.
Yep. No, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. So you slimmed it down. It's less than 10 ounces. You have those independent adjustments, which I know, a lot of people mentioned the first axis, like you guys said, it's squared from you guys to the person, but a lot of people still like to mess around with that and to know that they have that ability. So you've added that, you've labeled everything, which is awesome. With the switch tapes. So if you run, on the Arxos, if you run the switch tape on the inside, that the void dial will smush up right next to the body, and there's not a space for that second tape on the outside. Now, with the way it is now, there's going to be a little bit of a space there. If you don't run a switch tape, right?
Yep. So if you didn't run a switch tape on the outside, there would be a gap, but it was designed to like you don't think, like, it doesn't look like something's missing.
Right. Yeah.
So if you didn't want to run a ring on each side, you could pull whatever one off. And then, but yeah, so like if you didn't want the outside tape, there'd be a gap between the frame and like the knurled, I mean, this is exactly what it looks like. So
Yep.
there we have the ring would go on
Yeah,
the
and it doesn't
inside,
look.
and no, I mean it gives you plenty of room to get your hand in there and stuff. And that's like I said, that was the one thing with the Arxos is, depending on which orientation you wanted, you'd have to flip the main gear in and out. Where now you don't have to do that, and taking the void dial off instead of it being thread, it's like keyed, so it's easier to swap the rings. But that's another thing that didn't change is like the customizability. I think that's a word. You can still choose your color options, your void dial options. We're going to have some more, customization opportunities available here in the near future. So, but that was the big thing is with that switch tape orientation. And now, if you wanted to run a tape on the outside, like we've always been able to, you can and still have the use of the multi-indicator needles, because like I said, you can run 3 on the inside or 3 on the outside, or 6 all together with 3 on the inside, 3 on the outside. So somebody could set up, a site to where they have, I don't know, let's say like 20 to 100 set up as an inside tape. And let's say we were building a setup for tack or something, right? So you'd have 20 to 100 on an inside tape, and you could have 100 to whatever set up as an outside tape. And then you're only using, one tape at a time. I haven't figured out quite how I would run it, because to me, that's just a lot to try to like manipulate in my head. So like, I'll probably run an inside yardage tape with an outside setup tape.
Yeah.
Or I just won't run an outside, tape, but you can really pick and choose how you want to run it.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like, I mean, with the setup tape, so I like my tapes on the inside. With a setup tape on the outside, if you switch, like if I'm traveling, for example, from Utah to Wisconsin, I drop 4,000 feet elevation. I can have my setup tape on the outside re-side in if I really wanted to.
And then just put the new tape, and then just put the new tape on the inside.
Exactly. And just swap out the new tape for the inside. So if you travel a lot, that could be a good option for you. If you're losing and gaining a lot of elevation, maybe you've got a super light arrow setup for certain hunts or tack events, and then you have a heavier setup for maybe, I don't know, whatever different hunts you want to run it like that, or however, whatever reason you can have that. And then also, I just like the idea of having the single tape on the inside and having that kind of that space there. I mean, again, it doesn't look like much of a space.
No, it looks like it. I mean, it looks like it's supposed to be there, so you don't look like you're missing anything. But like as you were talking, I was just thinking about like, so a buddy of ours, a group of guys just went to Africa a couple months ago, and the one dude was going after Cape Buffalo, but then he was also going after plains game. So he had 2 different arrow setups, and like his Cape Buffalo arrow was like pushing 800 something grains. So totally different tape than a plains game arrow, right? Which is going to be a typical whitetail setup. So with the Arxos, like he was literally having to carry the spare ring for his heavier setup with him. So if they came across a Cape Buffalo, he could do the conversion real quick. Where now he could have had his plains game ring and his Cape Buffalo arrow ring at the same time, and just carried the 2, a quiver with the 2 different arrows. So that way, I mean, whatever walked out in front of you, you're ready for, right? But like, I think about too, okay, so more realistic for us here in the States, like, if you booked the hunt of a lifetime where you got, an elk tag and an antelope tag, or elk tag and a mule deer tag, let's say, and you want to run a heavier arrow for elk, lighter setup for antelope or mule deer, again, now you can run both tapes at the same time, have both arrows in your quiver. So, any opportunity that presented itself, you're ready. So just, I mean, all around, like, it's just more options to where you could literally set the proof up however you wanted to, regardless of your, whatever your preference is. Now you can do it. Like, you're really not handicapped because of how you like to set it up. You can do it in any capacity. And again, having those indicator rings versus the actual needles, just easier adjustability. And then like you've touched on plenty is the different mounting options. Now you can truly pick what mounting options you want, you want. So like that was one thing with the Arxos having, the 5-inch dovetail bar that was made for the bridge lock mounting system. But if it was anything else, you could still run it out the outside frame. But the feedback we got from the bridge lock users was if they ran the sight close to the riser, there'd be a bunch of dovetails sticking out the back of the riser. So this is actually our dovetail. So you can see it's shorter, so you can get the sight closer to the bow, which is going to help you.
Will you turn it so they can see how it angles in?
This is the dovetail. This is the bridge lock. Okay. Yep, this is the bridge lock. Yep. So the universal dovetail one. We'll try something here. I got a picture of one. Let's see if we can make it work. This isn't going to work. Never mind. Anyways, it's so like if this is the if this is the riser. If this is the riser, it mounts to the side, and then instead of just going straight out and then you having to compensate with your windage, now it'll come out, curve in, and then run inline. So you're still getting the riser mount option of the dovetail with the long throw of adjustment, but you're getting the inline look and feel to it. So
perfect. And then on the horizontal, so this this podcast will come out probably in a week or so, just here with the launch. But when the horizontal pins are available,
no, it won't. You'll be hunting in Wisconsin.
Well, I mean, I still put them out. I got to put them out for people, right? You have this wonderful thing called the internet, Scott, where you can schedule things. No, so with the horizontal pins, we kind of talked about this, and I've talked to some people about it as well, where I think 5 pins for me personally is a little cluttered. Some people with their 7-pin craziness, I don't get that either. That's fine. I think it works if you don't want to have a dial, like a sight that you have to dial in. But for a movable sight, I feel like personally 5 pins is a lot. But 4 pins is kind of like the sweet spot for elk, for example. Because when they take steps, they're big steps. They take a couple yards worth of steps every time they step. And so not having to dial and also being able to have the pin gap set exactly, because with my favorite is the vertical pins, and I've talked about this in my reviews with it, and when I talk to people about the sight that I use, I love that 3-pin vertical. But when I use my lighter arrow setup, that gap between my 20 and then the second pin, so my top pin and the second pin, becomes almost 20 full yards. And so I just use it as a single pin sight at that point. And I'm fine with that personally. I've figured that out. I'm confident in where I shoot. That's how I use it on my elk this year. But now having the option of those horizontal pins, you can go in and customize it. Now, it's not quite set up on the site yet, and this might change by the time this podcast comes out. But if someone, say, wants to go in and get a 4-pin sight, do they go in and put, do they buy a 5-pin and type in the notes, or is there a way to go in and customize, I want 19th 10 or even a 19th 10 if they get a 3-pin sight or whatever? How do they go about doing that on the site?
It'll be a custom, so like, let's say for like in your case, right, you want the 4-pin, so they would just select the 5-pin housing, and then at checkout there's a huge comment section where people can leave notes, and they can just leave a note saying, I would like a 4-pin with 10-10 configuration, whatever. And then we'll see it when we print the work order. So with having the 3 and 5, if somebody wanted a 4, then you would select the 5-pin. We'd remove 1 pin. If somebody wanted a 2-pin horizontal, then you would select the 3-pin housing, tell us to remove 1 pin, and go from that. And
don't see why people would do that, but cool.
Never know.
You're right. I
never know.
You can even do a single pin horizontal if you really want to do a single pin horizontal.
I guarantee you somebody will ask us for it. So and that's totally fine. I mean, that's kind of the beauty, again, just not to pick up with what we already talked about, but just for us and how we kind of do things, like we can react very fast. So like those custom build stuff, I mean, that's like what we do. So, I mean, there really isn't anything we can't build. And
do understand though, people out there listening, if you do that, you're not going to get the guaranteed shipping time that you got, with the standard. They have to go in and they have to add a little bit extra work. It's not a plug and play kind of deal.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit, longer of a lead time, but it's not going to be anything crazy because we build that stuff every day anyways. And that brings up a whole nother, one of our big initiatives is just working on production. And that was a big improvement with the proof, is the fact that, it's less components. So that's less parts that we have to manufacture, but the parts are actually easier for us to manufacture now. Our assembly is easier. So we're just getting more efficient and we're getting better. And that was one thing we've struggled with since the beginning, is just our delivery. But it's, when you're starting off, you're learning a lot it's a crash course, right? So, but working with our manufacturing partners, like our delivery is like one of our top priorities going forward. So having the lead times that we expected when we first started, like we're going back to that rather than constantly being a 2 to 4 week lead time. We want to be like a 3 to 5 day lead time, type of deal. Another big change is we are opening up a few more dealers across the country. So accessibility is going to be better. So if you're not somebody where you want to buy stuff online, you do want to go touch and feel, that's going to be an option now. So just overall, like we've expanded on a lot of things, just not, outside of product, just as a company as a whole, like we've made updates just across the board. So,
yeah. Perfect. No, I like that. But you can also go in just kind of talking to people. Some people don't like red pins. So again, if you want, green, yellow, or whatever.
We can do all green. Yeah, it doesn't, as long as we have the fiber, we can do it. If we don't have the fiber, we can get it. And that's another thing, just with the customization, like we've actually kind of seen, like when it comes to custom pins, like that kind of slow down a little bit, because I think a lot of people ask for customization, but they don't really know why. It's just, they think they need it, but then when they don't have it, they're actually like, oh yeah, like I actually like this, right? But the customization, I mean, that's just a huge part of like who we are as a brand. So like, we did a bunch of small batch drops throughout the course of Dialed, like that's going to continue. We actually have some really cool collabs coming up here in the near future, which I can't discuss, but they'll be pretty badass. So just having those options, but the Arxos and the Proof, they're plug and play systems. So like any feature that we customize, they can be interchanged, whether it's the housing, the dials, but all that just became a lot easier with the Proof, just with how it's designed. But that is one area we're going to keep expanding on, is the customization, the small batch, just, kind of try some new and cool stuff. So
love it.
People can look for those announcements. As we start rolling them out.
Perfect. No, I love that. And then I guess, is there anything that we haven't hit on the Proof site that you wanted to touch on?
That's, I mean, I think we hit the key ones. Again, I hope it'll resonate with people that like we really did listen. And I think personally, like after have, stared at this for, I don't know how long now. And again, like I reiterate, like we are our own worst critics. Like we are so hard on ourselves, but we have to be. And especially, with everything that we've been through. And now, like I said, kind of going into the second phase of Dialed, I think we've hit just about every, area that was a concern, with the Arxos, as well as added, some new stuff. But so I hope people, I hope they like and enjoy the changes that we've made. Because we've definitely, we're, like I said, we're risking it all on the Proof. So I hope I hope people are as excited as we are. Cause to say me personally too, like, to say I'm proud of like what our team's done is like, that doesn't even scratch the surface, and accomplishing it in the short amount of time that we did. And like a lot of people don't realize like the resources it takes to roll out a new product or design a new product. There's a lot of engineering time. I mean, there's a lot of prototyping, and all that takes time and money. And when you're a young company, it's still the three of us funding this thing. It's a struggle, but like I said, it was a fun project, and to see where it ended, I think I'm very pleased with it. And like I said, I hope people can see the changes that we made and appreciate it as much as we do.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. Guys out there, you always hear me talk about the companies that I choose to work with. I mean, I have a 9 to 5 that takes care of the family, takes care of the bills. So I'm not pressured to make a paycheck off of the podcast or the relationships that I have. So I get to pick who I get to work with. Obviously they want to work with me as well. But I choose Dialed because, again, I trust the company, I trust the brand. And I send people that way because if they're interested in all these features that Dialed has to offer and supporting U.S. manufacturing, I do love that there's a slight little change that I've noticed. I don't know when it was put on the website, but instead of made in America, it's manufactured in America. There's a big reason behind that, because there's a lot of things that you can put a little sticker that says made in America on, that not everything is technically, when you think made in America, it's what I call with my kids the word game. Some lawyers got together and said, this is what qualifies as made in America. It has to have a certain amount of touch points in America, but not necessarily everything is manufactured, made, sourced in America. And so that's why companies that do put that on their labels now, you have to be still, if you're trying to support that, you have to be a little bit careful if that's something that you're truly all passionate about. And that switch of manufactured in America on the site makes a statement in my opinion. You don't see that a lot. You just see the made in America. And so that's awesome. And then I think my last thing that I wanted to ask, we kind of hit on this a little bit, but there was one question that maybe we didn't completely cover that I had some people ask. I just told them, you were coming on the podcast, and I think we've hit on all the questions that I got except for this one. What is the single hardest part of a startup from your perspective? What was the hardest thing for you guys?
All of it. I think it really, for us personally, it was the capital. Just what we thought we could start the business with. We weren't even in the same universe, right? So that was a huge hurdle for us, and it still is, because everything is nickeling and diming, because it's money in and it's money out, right? Taylor and Jordan and I, we have yet to touch $1 from the company. All of it goes to our employees, it goes to the manufacturing partners, it goes towards continuing to try to grow the brand. We all kind of have this this finish line of what do we want Dialed to look like, what do we want it to become, and that's what's important to us. Not that I think that's a big, and you talk to any entrepreneur or any business owner, we all joked yeah, everybody thinks because you own your own business you're just rolling in money, and there's definitely people that do, and that's great. We're just not there yet. So that's I would say the hardest part, just from a stress point, is just the financial side. There's times where, especially now, we were basically trying to fund 2 projects, right? We had to keep the Arxos going because we need the revenue so we can pay for our bills, pay our employees, but then also take whatever little money is left over and put it into the development of the proof. And there were some times where you're just I don't know if this is going to work, right? I mean, you hit the points where you're like, I don't know if we'll be able to make payroll this week. Right. And I think that was one of the scariest moments, is when we started hiring employees, because now if this doesn't work out, it's not just me or us that, feel the wrath of it. Now we have, families, other people that took a risk to come work for us. Right. So, but the challenge, it's always the finance side, and that doesn't matter if you're, startup, or if you're a 40-year-old company. Like, there's just never enough money. Right. So, but I think just along every step of the way, there was never an easy day for us. And I don't say that to sound like I'm whining, even though I do want to whine about it every now and then. But there's just never an easy day. And like we jokingly say, man, like, how nice would it be just to have one day where we don't have a fire to put out, or there's just one day where we can just enjoy what we've done. But it doesn't happen, and that's okay. Like, again, we're the team where, like, adversity, like, I mean, that's what motivates us. You know what I mean? Like, ever since I was a little kid, like, going back to like my story, I was always the kid that got told, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. Like, you're not big enough to play football, you're not smart enough to go to college. Like, I always got told like I wasn't, enough. So, now meeting guys that have a very similar like mindset, where like, you put a challenge in front of us, we're going to figure out a way over it. Right. Rather than just giving up and being like, oh shoot, like, I mean, I remember, when we were just getting started, like, I mean, again, this is a story I've told hundreds of times, but I mean, Dialed was started with our own investments. Right. So like, I sold my house, cashed in all my 401ks, my savings account, any dollar we could scrape up, we did to start the company. And I mean, I sold my truck, like, you name it, I sold it. Taylor, he's put up his house for, collateral. Like, Jordan's, put in his own personal money. So it's like, we're all invested in this, but, it wasn't enough. And so then it's like, okay, we need to find outside capital. And we weren't interested in bringing on investors, because we just truly, and maybe there was an arrogance there, but we just really wanted to do it on our own. And we didn't want somebody else telling us what we could and couldn't do. Like, we had a plan, we had a vision. We didn't want somebody distracting us and trying to pull us in a different direction. So we went to the bank, right? And me, like, I don't sugarcoat things very well. And if I don't like something, I have a really hard time keeping my mouth shut. And again, going back to, you can ask my parents about that all the time. I have teachers that would tell you the same thing. But I remember going and, trying to talk to a bank, and how many of them just laughed at us. They're like, you're trying to do what? Like, that'll never work, like, but it didn't stop us. It's just every challenge that has presented itself, we've always just faced head on. And we have no clue what we're doing, but it's like, there's only one way to figure it out. Right. So, like, I don't think there's just really one challenge. It was, what is our biggest challenge? It's the capital, right? But that's not going to stop us from doing what we want to do. It just means, we have to have a little more patience. We have to get a little more creative. We may not want to hit the go button as fast as we want to, or, it may slow us down from releasing new products as fast as we want to, but we're still going to do it, so, right. But it's just, there's no easy day. I mean, every day it's a battle, but, at this point, I mean, I don't see any of us. I mean, there's no other option at this point. So, like we say all the time, I mean, you hear people say it, we say it all the time, like, burn the ships. Like, there is no turning back. Like, I mean, it's to the point where we've literally all said, like, if Dialed goes down, we're going down with it. Like, there is no other option. So, this isn't a part-time or a side gig for us. Like, I mean, if Dialed doesn't succeed, I have nothing left. Like, literally, I have nothing to fall back on. So that's, there is no turning back. Like, it's prosper or basically die, I guess. But you know, the direction we're heading, and that was just been the coolest part, I think, about just Dialed isn't the brand, you know, the team we've built, but internal and external. Like the amount of people that we've met and we've been exposed to, like you, for example, you know, we've never met before prior to Dialed, but just the amount of people that we've been introduced to, and you know, the support group, and just, you know, both again inside and out. But you know, like we actually have a folder just of emails we've got from people just saying, like, you know, like they don't have to do it, you know, but reaching out and just saying, I love what you guys are doing. Like, you know, and they even said, like, you know, you know, your product isn't for me right now, but I wish you guys nothing but the best. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you guys. Like, that's the shit that, like, man, I mean, you have no clue, like, again, like on those hard days, just how easy it is to kind of get trapped in this dark little spiral.
Yeah.
But then it just takes that one email and you're just like, you know what, like we are doing something cool. And, you know, we may not be the biggest company, we may never be the biggest company, but we're always going to be Dialed, and that'll never change. And, you know, again, like the people that have supported us, like, I mean, we will never take that for granted, and we'll never forget it. So
I love that. And that's so true. You know, it's you guys really have put everything on the line. And it's easy to say, but to actually do it, it's a whole nother situation. And so knowing that you guys, I mean, Taylor's got a family. You have put everything that you've had and that you worked for on the line for this. And so, you know, that's something that's a big deal. And then to continue pursuing, you know, your passion, but also being willing to, again, it'd be so easy to take offense to feedback that people are given, because people don't always give feedback in the best way. they can be pretty critical rather than just providing feedback, but not taking that personal and using it to progress. When you've put so much in, you feel like you've put in all these, you know, blood, sweat and tears. And I'll just say, you know, Scott came out to the first Phorm Outdoors games out on Sal Frisella's farm, and he was putting together people's bows and making sure everyone was dialed in, even if they didn't have a dialed sight at the time. And
I added bow medic to my resume that
yeah, exactly. Seriously, dead seriously.
But I mean that's a perfect example of like what I was talking about like what Dialed has like allowed us to be part of. You know, like that was a monumental weekend for me. Like I've done hundreds of events in my lifetime. That was one of the coolest weekends. Like I don't know if there's an event that would top that. Like, I mean, one, getting to hang out with you, but I mean, to get to meet like first Phorm people and like be at Sal's farm. And I mean, to watch those athletes compete, like, man, I mean, that was an 11-hour drive home, and the whole, like, I don't think I stopped smiling the whole way home. Like, and I still, like, I think about that weekend all the time. But I mean, that's been the coolest part about Dialed, is being able to be part of stuff like that and getting to meet these people that, where you don't realize outside of archery, you really don't have that much in common other than like fitness and whatever. But I mean, that's a lot of people, but it's literally archery that brings everyone together. So like I said, that whole weekend was just, I mean, that was an epic weekend.
Yeah, exactly. But again,
I want to do that every weekend.
yeah, right. That would be sweet. It's a adrenaline rush, but also, you know, again, just speaking to the character, you guys donated sites to every athlete that was there, not just the winners, but every athlete. I think there was 20 people that competed that made it to the finals,
or something like that.
Yeah, that made it to the finals. So that, on top of being there to take care of people's bows, again, people that didn't even have dialed sights for the event, you were in there making sure that everything was tied in properly, everything was tuned and good to go. You brought a bow press, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
my
he,
little
yeah, he
yeah.
was full
Oh
blown
yeah.
everything there. So again, short of his little ice cream truck that he he should have brought,
That might be, if we get invited back to the games, that might be Scott showing up in a old, because we couldn't pay to soup it up, so it'd have to be
yeah.
stock, but just a creepy old ice cream truck with like a faded clown face on the side.
Only if the music plays too. You gotta have
Oh
the
yeah, that's a
music.
must. Yeah, that's a must.
No, but just speaking to, you didn't get paid for that event directly to go out and take care of it. You came out because you believed in the event, you
Mm-hmm.
believed in the people over that first forum, and so that, again, just speaking to who you are and the team over there at Dial, just you guys do things like that and enjoy it and do it with a smile and no complaining, no upset to be there at all. You just enjoyed it thoroughly. And so, and helping clean up, stuff like that. You stayed behind, helped
Mm-hmm.
clean up. You
Yeah.
went and dropped stuff off at headquarters. You were in and out and just doing all the stuff. So, just, again, just the kind of person that you are and just the belief in that company. I want people to, hopefully they get onto this proof site and enjoy it. And then especially the people that are waiting for the horizontal pins and love those horizontal pins, hopefully they hop on that as well, because it's still just getting started and you guys have made a lot of strides in 4 years. And so it's really exciting. Outside of that, I don't think there's much else that I want to touch on. I feel like we hit on everything. So guys, go over and check out the Dialed site on the website. I've got the website down below. Go check it out. It is the Proof, PRU, with the little 2 dots on the top, F.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those things are called, but
I
like
forget
accents.
what it's. They're accents. I forget what the actual correct term for that symbol is, but yeah, it's proof. Yeah.
Yeah, the Proof. So go check it out, guys. Again, by the time this comes
the proof
out,
with the smiley face in it.
There you go. Exactly. And so go check it out, guys. And then maybe by the time this comes out, the horizontal pins will be available, or shortly thereafter. For those of you out there that have tags that are maybe just getting started with your whitetail season, good luck. Those of you that are doing any late season archery hunts or any hunts at all, good luck on your tags out there. Hope you have a great time. Scott, thank you so much for your time, because I know
Absolutely
you're not busy at all right now with the
this is a good break from the chaos.
Yeah. So we were
always
scheduling this.
always appreciate and enjoy jumping on and talking.
We were scheduling this, and I was like, hey, how does October 1st at 10 a.m. Mountain Time sound? And he was like, he answered me with such the most professional answer, and I was like, Scott, I was joking.
I don't even remember what I said.
So you just
like, I think I was just
in
like, it was like Ricky Bobby, like I was just in like,
he was trying so nice. He was trying to be so nice. I'm like, that's not the response I was hoping for. but I was going to take a screenshot of it.
It's like Russian roulette with me. You're either going to get a really nice, like professional response, or you're going to get like a very vulgar, like you're probably like.
That's what I was hoping for. Like, hey, dipshit, it's launch day kind of deal. But no, he was like, with us, we're going to be kind of stressed for launch day. So maybe if we could do a different day. I'm like, Scott, I was joking, man. Like, I know it's launch day. Yes, you were like super nice about it. I'm like, I really was. I was waiting for you to be like, hey, dipshit, it's a launch day. Choose another day. Like,
that's why I'm kind of like, he must have caught me like right in the middle of something, because I generally would not respond that way. I'd be like,
I was surprised. I was like, did someone take his phone or something? Hold on, I'm actually going to read this real quick just to show how nice, and it was actually kind of awkward reading.
Well, no, because now everybody's gonna expect that from me now going forward. So.
And just so you guys know, Scott will know that he will at least feel like he's made it. You guys will know, because he'll get a haircut. That'll be his first paycheck from Dialed, is to go get a haircut.
Hey, I got my haircut like 5 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see.
I'm on that 5 to 8 week, schedule.
Said, hey man, I won't be able to tomorrow. I'll be helping with customer service duties, and tomorrow being launch day. Is there another day that work for you? I'm like, Scott, come on, man. That was kind of tongue in cheek. I'm not going to tell you to do something else on launch day.
I wonder if I thought I was responding to somebody else or something.
I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
definitely doesn't sound like me.
I know. I was like, did someone grab his phone? Like, what the heck?
I know. I like hearing you read that. I actually kind of like, what? Like, oh,
Yeah.
that doesn't.
A little cringy.
I wouldn't say that.
Awesome.
Well,
all right, so guys, go check out the site. Go good luck on your tags. And again, Scott, thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
Like I always say, guys, get out, live your life, and love it. Hope you enjoyed that episode, guys. Definitely always a great conversation with Scott. I wish I could record every conversation that I have with him, because I feel like you guys could benefit from it, as he is a wealth of knowledge and just absolutely loves what he does with Dialed. He loves helping people get set up with their bows, get dialed in. No pun intended there, guys. It really is all about making sure that you're making an ethical shot, that you're confident in your equipment. And Scott loves to make sure that the people that he works with are taken care of. So check out the Dialed Proof over on the Dialed Archery website. Also, if you want to win the ultimate bow package in the First Phorm Outdoor Sweepstakes, check it out down below, guys. The link will be there to get entered into the $4,500 bow package giveaway. You definitely want to check it out. Last but not least, I appreciate each and every one of you. When this episode comes out, I'll be prepping for whitetail, so hopefully you guys are having a good time out there in the whitetail woods, chasing muleys, elk, whatever it is. Good luck on your tags. I'd appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. That helps a ton. It is free for you. Takes less than a second to do. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions about the Dialed Proof or anything else. And also, if you're listening into the audio only version on Apple or on Spotify, go leave a review. It takes very, very little of your time. It is free, and I appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much for everything that you've done to help this channel continue to grow. And we've got even more coming for you from the last quarter of this year, 2024, and heading into 2025. We have some new things launching as well. So stay tuned for that. Have a great rest of your day and week. And of course, get out, live your life, and love it.